When you think about the things that undermine relationships, what comes to mind? Many people would say it's things like cheating, lying, or outright betrayal. These are serious issues, no doubt, but there's something even more insidious, something much more subtle that can quietly erode a relationship from the inside out: avoidance and resentment. Avoidance and resentment often start small. They seem inconsequential at first, but over time they snowball into massive problems. They may not be as obvious as a betrayal, but make no mistake, they can be just as damaging, if not more so. Why? Because avoidance and resentment are quiet killers. They infiltrate the foundation of a relationship and gradually deteriorate the trust, the connection, and the understanding that are essential to any meaningful bond. The roots of avoidance, why we do it. First, let's talk about avoidance. It's the natural tendency to run from difficult conversations or uncomfortable situations. We all do it at times. It's that feeling of wanting to sweep things under the rug, thinking, if I just ignore this, maybe it'll go away. But avoidance, my friends, doesn't make problems disappear. It just buries them deeper, and problems that are buried don't get resolved. They fester. So why do people avoid issues in their relationships? There are a few key reasons. 1, fear of conflict. One of the most common reasons people avoid confrontation is simply fear of conflict. Conflict feels uncomfortable. It feels like it's going to tear everything apart. And so, the natural instinct is to steer clear of it. But here's the thing, conflict, when handled constructively, is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to learn more about each other, to grow as individuals and as a couple. Avoiding it, however, only postpones the inevitable. And if you don't deal with issues in your relationship when they're small, they're only going to get bigger. And by the time they get huge, it's much harder to fix them. So avoiding conflict only creates a ticking time bomb of unresolved issues that can explode when you least expect it. 2, desire to keep the peace. Another reason we avoid difficult topics is the desire to keep the peace. This can seem like a good thing at first. You don't want to upset your partner. You want to avoid making them angry or sad. So you keep quiet, hoping things will just smooth over on their own. But peace at the cost of truth is a dangerous game. It's like slapping a bandage on a wound that's slowly getting infected. Eventually, that wound is going to become more than just a problem. It's going to become a crisis. By avoiding truth, we often create a false sense of security, but false peace doesn't last. It's brittle, and once it breaks, it leaves people feeling hurt, betrayed, and confused. 3, fear of rejection or abandonment. This one is rooted in vulnerability. We avoid saying what we really think because we're scared of how the other person will react. We're scared that speaking up will lead to rejection, or worse, abandonment. But avoidance out of fear is a trap. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The longer you avoid the tough conversations, the more your partner may feel shut out or unimportant. And when they feel that way, guess what? They might pull away too, creating a distance that wasn't there before. Avoidance doesn't protect you from rejection, it only delays it. And when you're honest, vulnerable, and open, you're giving the other person the chance to show you who they really are. That's a crucial part of building true intimacy and trust. The silent destruction of resentment. Now let's talk about resentment. Resentment is like a poison that slowly seeps into your relationship. At first, it's imperceptible, just a small, barely noticeable feeling of frustration or disappointment. But left unchecked, it can build up day after day, and before you know it, you've developed a deep-seated grudge that's hard to shake. Resentment doesn't happen overnight. It's built on a foundation of unspoken feelings, unresolved issues, and unmet needs. It's what happens when you let a problem go unresolved for too long. It's the emotional equivalent of putting a heavy weight on a table. At first, the table can handle it, but over time, that weight begins to warp the structure. 1, unspoken needs and feelings. One of the primary causes of resentment is unspoken needs and unexpressed emotions. When you're not expressing your needs or concerns, they don't go away, they just start to accumulate. Let's take a simple example. Maybe your partner is late to dinner every night and you're left waiting. You feel unimportant, undervalued, but instead of speaking up about how it makes you feel, you let it slide. Over time, you become more and more frustrated, but your partner has no idea why. Now, instead of feeling hurt, you start to feel resentful. You begin to think, why do I even bother? They never care. You stop seeing your partner as someone who is simply unaware of your feelings and start seeing them as someone who disrespects you. Resentment grows in the silence of unspoken words. When your needs go unmet, your emotions go unexpressed. And as these emotions stew, they slowly erode the bond between you and your partner. 2. Holding on to the past. Another thing that fuels resentment is holding on to the past, specifically past hurts and grievances. When you don't let go of old wounds, they linger and they cloud your present interactions. You might be having a perfectly fine day with your partner, but then something small happens, something that reminds you of an old issue that was never resolved. Maybe it's a comment they made, a gesture they didn't notice, or a habit that bothers you. And just like that, all the old resentment floods back. You begin to think, here we go again, they're doing it again. The past never really stays in the past, it taints the present. And before long, you find yourself trapped in a cycle of blame and accusations that has nothing to do with what's actually happening now. Resentment keeps you stuck in the past, making it impossible to move forward. And this weight of old emotions keeps reopening wounds that should have been healed long ago. 3. The erosion of trust. One of the most destructive aspects of resentment is that it erodes trust. When you hold on to grievances, whether big or small, you stop being fully present in your relationship. Instead, you're filtering everything through the lens of your past pain. When trust erodes, it's no longer possible to be fully vulnerable with your partner. You start to question their intentions. Every word they say, every action they take gets scrutinized through the filter of resentment. You start assuming the worst because you're carrying emotional baggage that prevents you from seeing your partner clearly. You may even find yourself expecting disappointment, waiting for the other shoe to drop, which creates a cycle of mistrust that can be difficult to break. Resentment causes you to pull away emotionally, which makes it even harder for your partner to reach you, creating even more distance. Over time, this silent mistrust becomes the foundation of your relationship, replacing the mutual understanding that should be there. 4. The downward spiral, how avoidance and resentment feed each other. Avoidance and resentment often go hand in hand. When you avoid confrontation or expressing your needs, resentment builds up. And when resentment builds up, it leads to more avoidance. You see how this cycle starts? If you don't address small problems early on, they grow into bigger issues. When these issues aren't resolved, they create bitterness. And once resentment sets in, it becomes harder to confront issues directly. You may think, what's the point? They never listen anyway. This is a vicious cycle that can be incredibly difficult to break. The more you avoid addressing the underlying issues, the more resentment grows. The more resentment grows, the less likely you are to speak up. And as the distance between you grows, you start to feel like you're not really partners anymore. And at this point, the emotional connection weakens, and the relationship becomes more about surviving the problems than actually solving them. How to break the cycle, moving from avoidance to resolution. So, what can you do to stop this cycle of avoidance and resentment before it destroys your relationship? How can you break the chain that binds you to silent frustration and unresolved issues? 1. Commit to facing conflict head-on. The first step is to commit to facing conflict head-on, not running from it. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's vulnerable. But if you truly want your relationship to thrive, it's essential to lean into the discomfort rather than avoid it. Ask yourself, what's scarier? Having an uncomfortable conversation or letting this issue fester until it destroys everything? Start small. Begin by addressing the little things before they become big things. If something's bothering you, don't wait. Talk about it early, with honesty and vulnerability. 2. Practice active listening. In any difficult conversation, listening is just as important as talking. In fact, in many cases, it's even more important. When your partner expresses their feelings or concerns, make it a priority to listen without interrupting, without defending yourself, and without rationalizing. Just listen. Active listening is about being fully present in the moment. It's not about winning the argument or proving your point, it's about understanding. You may not always agree, but if you understand where your partner is coming from, you can address the issue with compassion rather than defensiveness. 3. Learn to forgive and let go. One of the most powerful things you can do in any relationship is to forgive. Not just your partner, but yourself as well. Forgiveness doesn't mean you condone bad behavior, but it does mean you release the hold that past hurts have on you. When you forgive, you let go of resentment. You stop allowing the past to dictate your present and future. and this frees you to move forward, to resolve issues instead of letting them build up. Forgiveness is a choice, not a feeling. You choose to move beyond the hurt and make space for healing. 4. Seek help if necessary. If the cycle of avoidance and resentment feels like it's beyond your control, it may be time to seek professional help. Therapy, whether individually or as a couple, can be incredibly valuable in breaking destructive patterns. A therapist can help you gain insight into the roots of your behavior, provide tools for better communication, and help you work through the unresolved issues that are causing resentment. 5. Cultivate emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy is the foundation of any healthy relationship. If you and your partner aren't emotionally connected, avoidance and resentment will naturally take root. Make time to connect emotionally, not just intellectually or physically. Ask your partner how they're really feeling. Share your own feelings, even if it's difficult. Create a space where both of you feel safe to express your emotions honestly and openly. The final truth: avoidance and resentment will always destroy what you love. To wrap this up, let me leave you with one simple truth. Avoidance and resentment destroy relationships because they destroy connection. They are the silent forces that erode trust, undermine intimacy, and prevent growth. They may seem harmless at first, but over time they tear apart the very fabric of the bond that holds you together. You can't build a meaningful relationship on avoidance and resentment. You must choose to face the difficult things together. You must choose to communicate openly, honestly, and directly, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. You must be willing to release the past and forgive, to give your relationship the chance it deserves. So don't let avoidance and resentment poison your connection. Confront the hard stuff. Be open. Be vulnerable. Be willing to work through the uncomfortable moments, because only then can you build a relationship that is strong, resilient, and truly loving.